Hi, my name is Elizabeth Warner. I'm leading the Woodland Restoration Project here at VISTA. Our project is funded by the Tampa Bay Estuary Program. In our property we have a beautiful cypress swamp that has been surrounded by a lot of invasive plants. What we're trying to do is remove the invasive plants and replace them with natives. Here's an example of one of the invasive plants we're targeting for removal. It is called a carrotwood. It's a small tree. It has distinctive leathery leaves. You see the orange flag on it that we've tagged for removal. A main part of our project is hosting volunteer days. During those days, volunteers come and help remove the invasives, and they're flagged for easier identification and removal. This carrotwood is nestled among a bunch of swamp fern, which is a beneficial fern that is endemic to Florida. This is the camphor tree, another invasive plant on the property. While it does grow into a stately tree that is helpful for shade, it can be very aggressive, so we are trying to remove them. The tree can be identified by their smooth, shiny leaves that are often like a light blue, sometimes spotted on the underside, and if you crush it, it has a nice camphor smell. This is Caesar weed, another invasive plant in the property. While it does have pretty pink flowers when it blooms, it's very aggressive and it can spread and cover an area like a mat. It's pretty easy to pull out. This is an example of the Brazilian pepper tree. It is the most dense and our biggest by number invasive plant on the property. It typically grows in a tree that leans and it spreads very easily. The leaves on this are typically opposite in a pinnate formation, and there's always an odd number. I also like to look at the back of the leaves because you can see almost all of them have a vein that forks near the tip of the leaf, and that helps with identification. We also have a lot of a native elderberry side by side to the Brazilian pepper, and they might look similar at first blanch, but the elderberries are longer and thinner, and they don't have the forked vein on the underside. Typically, the elderberry also have spots or dots on the bark. These are the air potato vines. They grow quite aggressively, and unable to support themselves, they latch on to other vines or trees and grow and can smother the plant. Here's an example of an air potato leaf. It's heart-shaped, somewhat oblong, and you can see it's growing here in and among the swamp ferns. You can also see it's also growing there and twining up the elderberry. After we clear an area of invasives, we try to replant with native plants. Here's an example of pinkster azalea. It's a native Florida azalea that has beautiful pink flowers in the spring. Using money from the grant from the Tampa Bay Estuary Program, we've purchased many native plants and have planted over 200 so far. An example is a Darrow's blueberry, a fetterbush, and a redbud. We typically select the plants based on whether it's a sunny or shady location, and also, very importantly, whether the soil is moist or dry. So, for example, this is a moist area. It's low-lying, and so it's a good location for the buttonbush. Here in a drier location, we've planted snowy square stem and asters. This area is moist on the edge of the swamp, so loblolly bay and coastal plain willow should grow well here. This is a swamp azalea. It's starting to have a bloom on it. It's a native Florida azalea that likes wet areas. This scarlet hibiscus also likes moist areas, and it's about ready to flower. When we plant these plants, initially we have to water them until they get established, but our goal is to select plants that won't need indefinite watering. Here's an example of Hibiscus grandifolia, also a native plant that likes moist areas. The Fakahatchee grass is very low maintenance. We planted it and pretty much have forgotten it. It tends to like moister areas as well. The Sweet Bay magnolia is a native magnolia that likes swampy areas. We've seen it growing naturally in the swamp, so we selected to plant some here. With many of our plantings, we've placed identifying signs with them that give the common name, the scientific name, and a link to a website from either the Florida Wildflower Foundation or the Florida Native Plant Society